Monday, 27th of October, 2025, and in this evening's show, we discuss Ian Evatt's first game in charge as Pool travelled to Posh on Saturday and came away with 3 vital points. Our first points on the road, our first win on the road, to cap a perfect start to Evo's tenure. It's also provided a massive psychological boost in lifting us off the bottom of the table. I'm John Aspinall, and this is Seaside's podcast, match reaction show. Peterborough United 1, Blackpool 2.
With a great tradition.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Seaside's podcast on a Monday evening. A very happy panel, and I'm no doubt a very happy listener base. Welcome to everybody on the stream. Lots of comments in there. Everyone seems to be in a good mood. On the panel this evening are Matt, Nick, and Tim. Tim, you fired up the Quattro and decided to make that long, arduous journey down the A1 to Peterborough. A good decision for once. And when did you make that decision?
Well, Tory Corner, as he's known on AVFTT, Ashley Polton Bus, who's had a few names. He was badgering me about Wednesday or Thursday. Do you fancy going? And initially I said, I don't fancy, because his car was playing up. So I don't fancy a 10-hour drive. But then I Googled it. It was 3.5, and I changed my mind. And after Thursday lunchtime. So to be honest, I just felt that, you know, with Everett coming in, I felt I wanted to be there. I did the long trip to Exeter, and that was shockingly bad. The rest of the trip was great. The football was shockingly bad. I just had a feel. I just one of those things. You know, when you get a feeling sometimes, you think I want to be there. So he persuaded me. So we set off at 8 o'clock Saturday morning. Got down there for 12, to be fair. I think we were one of the first ones at Charters, and we're back at 8:30, so it was cool.
Good going.
Yeah, very good. Bear in mind, charging stops en route and on the way back as well. We even had I put it on AVFTT. We had a quick drink at Doncaster. What was it? Hilton or whatever it was. Holiday Inn. On the way back, while we had a quick splurge on the charging. But yeah, it was pretty good, to be fair. I quite enjoyed it as well. Quite enjoyed the drive.
Easy 3-hour drive for your chauffeur, Tim.
Well, I was the one with the peak cap on. It was flipping. Ashley was sat in the passenger seat, googling away, thinking away on AVFTT while I'm driving. No, it was good.
Yeah.
It was a good day. Listen, we have plenty of bad days watching the football, don't we? And I think I've put something on Facebook to that effect, really. You know, sometimes it's a good day ruined by football is one of our favourite expressions, isn't it? And Saturday was just a good day. It's really nice to come away from a game without having your day not ruined, but you know what I mean. Exeter, great trip, but football was crap. The football wasn't. Listen, we're going to go into it. The football wasn't brilliant on Saturday, but a win's a win, particularly when you're at the bottom of the league.
Yeah. Matt, welcome. Not had your views on the Evo appointment. Just very quickly, what were your thoughts when the appointment was made?
Well, I was sort of nonplussed about it, brutally honest. I think what the problem was or is that player who's got a good sort of history and is well liked, and you remember the good times and all that. You don't want it to be sort of tarnished by the possibility of screwing it all up as a manager, and then your outlook on him really. So, but you look at his record. Aside from forgetting about him playing for us, you look at his record at League 2 level, and I don't know how many there are that's better than that, really. So given probably a relatively small pool that we have to sort of choose from. Overall, I was reasonably happy with it. I mean, I couldn't have said, let's get X, Y, and Z. I just thought, to be honest, I thought Bloomfield was going to be in just because it was a cheesy Bloomfield surname, and he'd just got potted by Luton, obviously. So he was available. But then I sort of read about him possibly being more southern based, and then that sort of rang an alarm bell, because you want somebody, especially after the last regime, you want somebody to be absolutely 100% committed and more on your doorstep, really. So I was overall sort of happy that Everett got the gig, and not just because of Saturday, but from what I've heard and read, in the subsequent sort of 3 or 4 days, he hopefully he's going to turn this big oil tanker around for us.
And he's made a great first thrust off the docks, hasn't he, Nick? And this was the the lineup that he did it with. Just gives you thoughts on it. Peacock, Farrell, Casey, Horsfall, Lyons, Ashworth, left back, Lyons, right back, Evans. They've got him as left mid there for some reason. Brown, centre mid, Bowler, centre mid. Hamilton on the right, Bloxham, Fletcher up front. Very slim pickings for Evo on his debut. Was it 12 or 13 fit pros, something like that? So he didn't really have a lot of a pack to shuffle.
No, he didn't really. If you look at the keeper, the back four, that they're all pretty much picking themselves there, really, with who's available. Evans and Brown for the two holding midfielders. Again, we've not really got anybody else. And then it was just what he would do around Bowler, CJ, Banks, Bloxham, Hansen. But no real surprises for me there. Like I say, it's slim pickings in some areas, isn't it? So overall, I was reasonably happy with it. Trying to work out initially how we were going to line up there. Bison's has mentioned the comments, more of a back five in the first half, which it looked to me like it was from the bits that I saw. But yeah, overall, pretty happy with the lineup considering who we had to choose from.
Tim, pretty obvious lineup there. What was the mood in the stands like? When was that when that was announced? And just generally, what was the mood? Could you sense a bit more optimism amongst the fan base as compared to other away games?
Well, those have been down to Peterborough before. To be fair, I don't think I've actually been down since 2010. I was trying to think whether I've been since, and I can't remember. There's that Chartist, which is like a boat, for those who don't know, that's moored up along the river, and it's literally, as you come across the bridge from the centre of Peterborough, boats on the right hand side, and the ground's on the left hand side, about another 150 yards, 200 yards down the road. So it's really, really convenient. Bar was full of Blackpool fans, mainly Southerners, to be fair. It was a good turnout, about 550, which I think is a great effort, bearing in mind where we were in the league and how inaccessible Peterborough is. And there was generally a good atmosphere. I think people were generally happy that Everett had been appointed. The bit of intel we got pre-match, and it was actually from somebody who'd met Bloxham's dad in the pub, was that Bowler was going to play in the 10, and that's what we saw, didn't we? We saw Bowler sort of tucking in behind Bloxham and Fletcher. And what, despite that showing a 4-4-2, it wasn't in the first half. It changed in the second. In the first half, Ashworth very much played high up on the left, and Lyons tucked in on the right. So we were actually, because we know Everett wants to play 3, but I think because of who he had available, he was a bit stuck. So what he did was he played the 3 across the back with Ashworth pushed up, and then we altered it. We'll go on to discuss it. He alters that a bit in the second half. So Evans was actually tucked inside with Brown. Bowlers sat in front of them, and CJ's playing basically right wing. So I don't agree with Bison's. It was a back 5 because it was a 3, very much a 3 for me, with wing backs. But those wing backs rarely were back in our own half. Obviously when we defended, they're going to tuck in a little bit, but they were very much pushed up. So it was very much an Everett style formation. I think we're going to get everybody back. We're going to see 3 centre backs playing.
Matt, the start was not great from Blackpool as usual. I was writing a few notes down as I was watching the game. I put terrible clearance from Horsfall, great save from Peacock Farrell, Keystone Cops moment in the box after not clearing the lines, and CJ in twice down the right and miscontrolling both times. So a real mixed bag of a start.
Yeah, it was, and unfortunately, as much as Ian Evatt might be able to how the defence lines up and how the midfield lines up, and what you can't sort of immediately iron out is CJ's first touch, perhaps, and one or two others constantly just gave the ball away and just were. I mean, it's probably they're all victims of where we are in the league. Confidence, despite him coming in for a few days, is not going to just evaporate, and we're all going to be, cock a hoop and play like, Barcelona 1996 or whatever again. It's going to take time, and I was watching it through sort of, fingers really, because I just thought, if we concede here, this could be just disastrous. What a horrendous start it was in terms of just doing the basics, and I'm sure that. It's the last thing he wanted was for us to give away possession as easily as we did, and we just wanted to ease into it and do the basic stuff that you would expect an away team to sort of do, really. And it just didn't happen in time to get a foothold of any sort, really. But as usual, we're our own worst enemies, aren't we? We just can't retain possession, and we just give it away far too often. So. It was a little sort of not necessarily disappointing, but not a surprise that was happening, because we do have to, we've got some shackles to shake off here, haven't we?
Nick, I've put my notes as well. Bowler guilty of losing the ball in central areas, in dangerous areas of the pitch. Evans as well. It really was a nervy start, and it was just a case of not conceding, I think, in that first 20 minutes.
It was, yeah. Like Matt said, there was, some poor touches, some stray passes, and you're thinking, oh, here we go again. Like, like Matt says, this isn't just going to, I said on the last pod, this isn't just going to turn around straight away. It's going to take time. I did think, you could see that as the game went on, we looked like we had a bit of a plan at least. He's only had a few days with them. But, we were trying to press a bit more, trying to have a bit of tempo. I think, we're fortunate. You can see why they're where they are the same way you can see why we're where we are in the league, because final third for them, there was some poor touches. They could have been in a couple of times when they'd cut through us, but they really lacked quality in that final third. It was probably what you'd expect to see from two teams down at the bottom of the league. But we rode that out, and then obviously managed to get the goal thanks to some Keystone Cop defending from them, to say the least.
There's a decent shout there from Seaside Wrexham. The pressing was a lot better. I thought they looked more up for it. It's a good shout, and we have been critical of A, the press, and B, set pieces as well.
Listen, it was poor in the first half. There's no point in shying away from it, but we were working. The players were working for each other, working for the team. What really, I think the first time it happened in the first half, I don't know if you saw it as well on TV, but as soon as there was a break in play when somebody was down injured, Everett had them all in within about 30 seconds. And if it panned across, you might have then seen the Peterborough guys come in, but he had them in straight away to coach them and to try and correct some of the plethora of errors that were going on, because we were giving the ball away far too cheaply. I mean, Evans, literally, I think there was a joke going around, wasn't there, that Evans had completed more passes for Peterborough than any of their players. It was really, really poor. And my bad, before we started seeing the goals, I was just thinking, Jesus, these two teams deserve to be where they are. The bottom two in the league, because it wasn't. There was a lot of stray passes, and we were probably the bigger culprits than them, to be honest. So it's fair to say it was quite worrying in those early stages of the game. But you could see, I think Everett was looking to try and tackle things, and most certainly there was a different attitude off the ball that we've seen, I think, all season up to now.
Matt, another complaint against Steve Bruce was our lack of preparation, both defending and attacking corners, set pieces, etc. I noticed an instant difference in initially the corner. We had a well-worked corner, Evans to Brown, and Brown obviously completely missed the ball, if you remember that. But it was something we wouldn't do previously under Steve Bruce, that kind of thing, routine.
No, that's right. And I guess that's an example of doing these little tweaks on the training ground that, quite frankly, they obviously haven't had. It's shocking, really. I mean, when I think back I was listening to Jordan Brown's interview after the match on Saturday. I was listening to it on Sunday. And he said it was the first time this season that he's gone onto the pitch knowing the job that he was told to do, which is just shocking, really. I mean, even a Sunday morning footballer gets told pretty much what your job is to do. And, at a professional level, that's just a joke. And you could sense there was definitely a lot more organisation about them. It was obviously, they were learning on the job effectively on Saturday. That's why Tim was saying about them. Ian Evatt was obviously coaching them as they were playing, which isn't ideal, but it's the circumstances we were in. And fair play to them for obviously listening to him and for him to do it and being proactive to do it. Because if he saw something, he was obviously telling them, and he was having to do it. And it must have just been a nightmare for him as well as the players, really. So, in fairness, fair play for them, to getting through the whole 90 minutes without, sort of self-combusting or whatever. But there were little signs that things were already in place. I noticed when we were defending a corner as well, there just seemed to be a little bit more organisational sort of ability there. And we can go back to why Horsfall hasn't played over the last few weeks. And apart from, I think, a couple in the first 5 minutes, and you can probably blame that for just not having game time, probably more than anything else. I thought he made a massive difference. He was definitely a big unit at the back that we need type without sort of stereotyping him too much. But I don't know whether it was audible or not. I couldn't tell, obviously, when I was watching it. But you just see there's a this is why the guy captained Stockport, and this is why Stockport fans were pissed off that he went and all the rest of it, because hopefully he'll make a massive difference to us. So yeah, with that and a bit of coaching, I wouldn't say you can't go wrong, but obviously it's hopefully going to quicken up those baby steps that this squad need, really, despite the depleted numbers.
I think, Nick, this absolutely would have been a game we would have lost under Steve Bruce. Fine margins in that, but it's just that bit of organisation and aggressiveness that Evo seems to have introduced over 4 days that have made a difference here and kind of got us over the line.
Yeah, I thought that myself. It'd probably just be another drab away game where we don't really create anything and get beat even by a poorer side as Peterborough are. It is going to take time, but there's green shoots of recovery, which I think is as much as you can ask for at the stage we're at. I said on the last pod, it's just Saturday and the next few games are about just trying to pick up points however we can. We get a bit of luck, happy days, get a couple back, and then he can start to build, and we'll eventually see an Ian Evatt team playing in the style that he wants us to play, with enough fitness to be able to do it.
Tim, over to you for the goal. Obviously, not the best view. I noticed the away fans are now shoved down the side at Peterborough in that really rickety old West Stand style stand. But what was your view of the goal from that far end? Bowler actually doing a bit of a drive and an attack at the defence.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, it was. I think you used especially Keystone Cops, didn't you, before? And it was a little bit like that, wasn't it, towards the end? But there's a decent shot in from Bowler which started the calamity defending off, and then it seemed to bounce around all over the place after that. And I think they gave it to Bowler originally, and then Blackpool gave it as an OG. I think their defenders managed to tap it over the line at the end, didn't he? But listen, you take anything, don't you? At when you're in our position, and it wasn't the greatest goal, but I think the first shot created the scenario, didn't it? And that was probably Bowler's highlight of the game, really, because I still think he's struggling a little bit. and it's about, when everybody's back, it's going to be about trying to find where he fits into the side, because we know what he can do, but he's some way off being able to do that on a regular basis for me at the moment. So obviously the stands were ecstatic. You're going to take, bear in mind, I think the only other goal we've scored away from home this season was Exeter when we were 3-0 down already. So hardly anything I don't think we even cheered the goal when that one went in. So it was it was good to be winning a game for once, and and again, it's part of the justification for making the trip. The view, to be fair, isn't that bad. From that stand, we sort of had about a third of the stand going down, and a reason, there's a couple of stanchions, but a reasonable view, not as many as Stockport anyway. And they've now got the Peterborough lot, where those who went in 2010, where we used to have the terrace behind the goal, that's now seated, and they've got like a little bit of like their, I won't call them ultras, but you know what I mean. The singers. There's two blocks of them all together. And to be fair, they create a little bit of atmosphere opposite to where their sort of main home end is. So listen, I quite like Peterborough's ground. It's got a little bit of character about it. It's not the sort of Lego style stadium. It's been built up from something that's been there from the 50s and 60s, and maybe in some respects a little bit earlier than that. So I did quite like it. It was weird going back because things have all around the grounds changed a bit, but I was quite happy with the view, to be fair. It was not just that one pillar to keep looking around, but
you were easily recognisable with your big deep red or deep tangerine coat as well. Could see you on quite a few times on the camera.
I was my rab tangerine job. It was. We didn't have the greatest of view. All we could see is ping, 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 and then it hits the back of the net. And I only realised it was an OG when Blackpool, their Twitter feed, whatever it was, put it up as an OG.
So,
and then David Coleman, of course, because David, with our almost instant replays that we get, which I was sharing around the ground, they're fantastic, David, by the way. When you're ever at a game, within 2 minutes, you've got an instant replay, which is fantastic.
That's in our WhatsApp group, by the way. If anyone wants to join, patreon.com // Seasiders Pod. Shameless plug. If you want to join, you get instant replays. Matt, anyway, over to you for the equaliser. You did mention Fraser Horsfall, a colossus at the back, prior to them equalising, two massive blocks from him. Lyons as well doing a sterling job keeping them at bay, but there was a kind of an air of inevitability when they scored. They were putting the pressure on, and took us through a goal again, a set piece.
Yeah, do an awful lot wrong really initially. We obviously cleared it relatively easily, which a thing we haven't done in the past. But then I don't know. I don't know if there's any sort of blame to be apportioned, other than obviously it was just disappointed that it was just the timing of it, really. Because if we'd have gone in 1-up at half time, we would have been very happy, despite the not very much free flowing football that was in front of us. But the ball sort of came out, and there wasn't anybody there to really sort of close him down, and it just sort of went in between sort of like I wouldn't say a pack of players, but 2 or 3 players. Peacock Farrell, was he unsighted? Was he just flat? A bit of a combination of both, possibly. Stuck an arm out thinking that somebody was offside. Well, in my opinion, they weren't interfering. It was, sinking of shoulders time when the ball hit the back of the net. And there was obviously from my perspective, there was a sense of, deja vu, here we go again type of thing. And like I say, with the rotten timing just before half time, really. I don't know if could we do things better? Possibly. Maybe somebody else could have closed it down a bit quicker. But one of those, really. I don't think there's an awful lot we could have done about it.
There was actually at the match, there was a lot of vociferous in the bogs a lot of vociferous talk about it was definitely offside, and I actually said I actually don't think it is because he wasn't interfering. But when you do look back, it's not the guy who puts his hands to the side and basically says I'm not going anywhere near it. For me, if there's anybody interfering with play, it's the next one in who's also offside, who arguably was slightly in Peacock Farrell's line of vision. I don't think the other guy was, the one that was miles off. So when I watched it back, I sort of felt that there was an argument there on him, but not the one who was, and maybe the linesman was focusing on the guy who's miles off and thinking, well, he's definitely not interfering with play, and loses, are you looking at
or is he though, Tim? You know, Peacock
I
Farrell.
would be pleased off if that was chalked off for us. To be fair, I'm not saying it was 100% off. What I'm saying is that there's more of an argument with the second guy's offside.
I didn't even notice that. I'm going into back for Peacock Farrell there because I know the guy's he's not in his direct line of sight, but he's in his peripheral vision. That guy stood there, and it's enough to make you just look at him, take your eye off the ball or the game for a bit of a split second, and then that shot's come in and it's too late. So is it interfering with the play? I think it is.
Comment, isn't it? If you're not interfering play, what you're doing on the pitch,
Yeah.
But I know. Look at applying the rules. I think when you watch the Premier games and when they do the VAR checks, that I think I can't remember his name, but the guy stood miles off. He goes like that. I don't think that's ever going to be given offside. But I do think there's a case with the other guy.
That's interesting. That I haven't really seen that because I think you're right. Everyone's just focused on that.
Well, I think that's what the linesman focused on. I think that's what they're focused on. So, but equally, I boot on the other foot. I would if that was us, I'd be saying that should be a goal, and you'd be fuming if that was chalked off. So I think I wasn't. There was other. All I'm saying is there's people there who are spitting feathers that it wasn't given offside, and I didn't quite get where they were coming from, to be honest.
I mean, a lot of people have given Peacock Farrell stick, haven't they, for not diving? Has it gone down? Has the ball just come in too quick? Has he been missighted by defenders? Make the case for his defence.
Well, I think it's the second. If there's anybody who's missighted him, it's that second one. If you watch it back after this, I think if anybody's missighted him, it's him, and he is offside. So I will say I don't think Peacock Farrell's necessarily at fault on that.
I mean, there's people saying his reflexes are poor. You can't say that when that save is made in the second half when his reflex, he's just got his hand up and stopped that point blank shot from going in right at the death.
Yeah.
So it's not his reflexes.
No, I think someone mentioned was he flat? Maybe caught a bit flat-footed. There was a goal earlier in the season, wasn't it, where there was a deflection and everyone in the north. There's people in the north. I think he got booed after it, going mad at him for not making an attempt to save it. So that's where maybe some of the criticism is coming from. But I think ultimately he's probably unsighted and it's gone past him. Like you said before, John, he's made a couple of very good saves. So I don't think it's his reflexes, and he could have maybe made a dive for it, but I still don't think he gets to the ball. It wasn't particularly well hit. It was bobbling, wasn't it? And from that point of view, it was a bit disappointing because it's not like the guys rifled it in. But I don't think you can apportion too much blame for him. For me, it's one of those, isn't it?
Okay, on to the second half. Graphics changed there. Tim, how did you think we started? I've put in my notes. Started okay.
I think probably we definitely improved in the second half. I think we had a little bit of a move around. I think you saw Ashworth sort of play slightly deeper and probably Lions push on a bit. The usual suspects still seem to struggle, so I don't want to be too negative in what I say, but Evans and CJ and Bowler, I've got to say, those three were just constantly giving the ball away. I mean, and it was a continuation of the first half.
We would have been absolutely punished by a better side in this game.
Oh yeah, I mean, Peterborough was shocking, and it was a case of the rush to the bottom as to who could be more ineffective.
I
But
mean, look at that accurate passing stat, 67%. I'm sure Evo will sort that out, but I think that tells the tale, doesn't it?
yeah, and I think that was when you're there in the game, I've not watched it back. I just quickly watched the 2-minute highlights just before we came on, but I've not bothered watching it back. Obviously, after a full day out, you sort of do stuff with the family on Sunday, so I didn't feel the need to watch it back really, but it was just a feat that and it was coming from the stands. These people. I think most people who go to a game at Peterborough tend to be the more, how can I put it, less critical of the fan base, I would say, because they go all over and they see all sorts of turgid performances, particularly over the last few months. But there was a lot being said about Evans giving the ball away. It was a feature from the stands, and it kept on happening. It kept on happening. You're thinking, Jesus Christ, and they were. There's a lot of talk about hook him off and CJ as well, and these are people who travel all over the place. I do 10, 12 games a season, but there's people there who were being very vocal, who I know go to pretty much every single away game. And if anything, the surprise to me was that the subs didn't come earlier than they did.
Matt, we talked about our lack of ability at defending corners, nearly cost us a gain early in the second half. Free header coming from a corner, rebound's been knocked in by our lad. Luckily, offside, but I think this is an area Evo has to look at and deal with. He's not going to do it in 4 days, is he?
No, that's right. And yeah, it was, it was as clear a header as you're going to get, wasn't there? Wasn't anybody within 2 yards of him, and it was on the 6-yard line, I think, pretty much when he headed it. I mean, I suppose the only saving grace is that they might have done some work on actually clearing their own sort of area, because he was well offside, so there was no doubt about that decision at all. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in regards to that side of the defensive work. But initially, yeah, we can't afford to be giving players 2 yards free space in our own effectively 6-yard box. So it's not one that we got away with as such, because we just sort of switched off maybe for the first part. But yeah, it was a little bit worrying to see these things. I mean, like you say, they're not just going to be ironed out overnight. It isn't going to happen. These lads, unfortunately, I wouldn't say they've necessarily picked up bad habits. They've just got to be trained properly. And I'll go back to what I said earlier. It's just negligent to what's happened to this squad, quite frankly, on the training pitch over the last 3 months or whatever it's been. So yeah, no doubt Everett and Craney and Dobby, etc., will be putting the work in, and I'm pretty damn sure that these players, as has seemed to be the case from what they've spoken about after the match, will be taking it all in and lapping it all up, and probably be quite frankly, bloody grateful that who can teach them the trade again.
Nick, a few hairy moments playing out from the back as well. This is something the Bolton fans did say. I did notice it was a bit more prevalent in the game, and a few very hairy moments, and Peterborough were kind of turning the screw after that, and it was good to see us weather the storm and get a bit lucky and not concede, really.
Yeah, it's a feature of the modern game, isn't it? Everybody saw Man City do it a few seasons ago and want to do it as well. And there are times when it works, but there's also times when you just think, put your foot through it, because you can see what's coming, But I think it is the way Evo's going to want to play, so they're going to need to be comfortable on the ball. Bit different to obviously instructions under Bruce, what they were doing under Bruce. So it's another thing for them to get used to. But I think there's a balance to it. I wouldn't want to do it all the time, because I think inevitably you will get caught out, particularly at the level we're at.
I think, unfortunately, with sorry, John. I think, unfortunately, one of the problems that we've got, of course, is we haven't got a left-footed centre half. So when Casey, who's playing on the left side of centre half, gets the ball from Peacock, Farrell, or Horsfall, he inevitably has to trust his weaker foot to distribute or come back inside. And there was a moment, wasn't there, where him and Peacock Farrell had a little bit of a a go at each other, and then we sort of sorted things out. But I can understand us wanting to try these things, and so long as we don't overplay it, and you see more goals at League One level conceded than you do created by playing it at the back. Hopefully, it's just something they'll get better at and know when to do it and when not to do it.
Helps if they put it on Peacock Fowler's left as well, rather than his right foot.
Absolutely,
that helps.
So with Jimmy Husband coming back, that might be a
well, yeah, absolutely,
he can play left side of a 3, can't he?
Yeah, for sure.
So Tim, after this sort of pressure and Peterborough turning the screw, I think there was a bit of a sea of change for the Seafarers from about, I don't know, 60 odd minutes. We had Brown going forward, good run from Ashworth, drawing a foul, good delivery from Evans. Fletcher one should have got on the end of one. And I could sense just watching the game, it had turned. I think Peterborough's heads had gone down a bit, and I could sense something was happening. Was it the same in the ground?
Yeah. I think that's a fair observation. It was. We started to win a few challenges, which I'm not sure we did the first time. I mean,
CJ coming off was a big part of that sea of change as well.
Well, yeah, was that around 70 minutes? I'm trying to remember.
74, something like that. Yeah.
So for me, it was overdue. I was just surprised that didn't happen after 60, to be honest. And I think if you're defending CJ at the moment, he's probably one of only half a dozen to 8 players who can actually play 90 minutes. And so maybe Everett's thinking, if I put certain players on too early, are they going to last, or is the risk of an injury? So maybe he's thinking, I'll hang on a bit longer. But it was quite surprising to me that both him and Evans didn't get hooked earlier than it was. And I think sometimes it is a reflection of needs must, isn't it? It's about not making too. We had a very, very young bench. And it was quite amusing actually when you saw a couple of lads warming up on the sideline. You realise how young a couple of them were. Really, really young lads. So, I thought Upton might have come on a little bit earlier, and and when the changes came, for me they were overdue. That's what I would say. But there was most certainly momentum change, as you say, but. We at the stage about the 60-minute point, I would have said watching the game that Peterborough were the most likely to score, but I think it changed not long after that.
Well, Matt Bowler coming off as well for Hansen. Hansen added a bit more of a threat as well, and we looked like a sort of a changed side almost when that happened. And it was good to see Hansen getting the ball, taking the pressure off, getting up the field.
Yeah, I mean, to a certain extent, I think we saw a glimpse of it against Stevenage at home, didn't we? First game of the season, of what he could do, and we haven't really seen much else, quite frankly, of him. So he's got a hell of a lot to prove, and obviously with the new manager coming in, he might have a bit more of a role that suits him, should we say? Because I don't think anybody had any sort of role previously. We just pray that Hansen does play a lot better, quite frankly, because we need him to push for a starting spot, because we can't, we are down to the bare bones. So we need these lads to come on and take the pressure off others. And if Bowler isn't performing, then another has to come on and replace him. And, equally, we've mentioned CJ as well. You're not blessed, unfortunately, with anybody from a central midfield perspective, it would seem at the moment, unless you do throw Theo Upton on, which is probably not going to happen. And although it might actually, you might get a lot more game time on Saturday in the cup, perhaps. But it's just good to see that. For me, I sort of saw that as a change in the last sort of 15 minutes of regulation time. And I know we'll touch on the goal in a second or two, but even after we scored, we looked pretty comfortable, really.
Nick, your thoughts on the subs? Did it affect change?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I mean, it wasn't like I thought, wow, there's definitely a goal coming here. We had that. There was that decent free kick from Evans where, like you said, Fletcher. That's where you just want him to throw himself at it because I think any sort of touch, it hits the back of the net. So that was a little bit frustrating. But yeah, it kind of took the pressure off a little bit at the other end, and we started to get forward a bit. And well, with the goal, it was just it was the moment of the game, really, wasn't it? In terms of the skill he showed, so I think it was Brown got the ball out to Banks, and then he's just cut inside and curled an absolute beauty into the corner. Fantastic goal, and we know he's got quality. He didn't look quite recovered from his injury when he came on last week, so it was good to see him come on and score such a fantastic goal, because we don't create a lot, do we? So you're kind of relying on those moments of brilliance, and that certainly was one.
Is it right that it's his first goal was about 3 years? It's a long time, isn't it? Because I don't think he scored over in Germany, and he's had a few injuries himself as well, hasn't he? I know he mentioned his interview. But I saw somebody post it, and it was quite a remarkable period over which he hadn't scored. But I mean, it just showed. It showed for me, just showed so much positivity there, where other players would hold on to it. And I think he said in his post-match interview, didn't he? He didn't look for anybody. He just went for goal and hit it, and it reminded me a little bit of something like that, like Bowler would do first time round with us, where he just cut inside from that right hand side and hit it with his left, and it was a fantastic finish.
Pandemonium in the away end, Tim.
Oh, proper pandemonium in the way end on that one, I've got to say. It was, somebody just said it's 40 months since his last goal.
Wow.
Which is, and I think he said he originally turned the wrong way, didn't he? I think he forgot what it was like to score a goal. So he had to be sort of turn around to go, sort of run towards the Blackpool fans. But it was a fantastic finish. It's what you want. You want people, a little bit like what Carey was doing to us in the last sort of third of last season, where he's just, prepared to have a go. And that's what you want, rather than just keeping hold of the ball and being too scared, if you call it that, but too insular to actually think I can score a goal. I think we've had too many players who want to give somebody else the responsibility, and it was good to see somebody just let fly with one and have a go rather than look for the pass, because he's in the right area. He's 20 yards out. We should be looking to get a shot off, and he executed it fantastically well.
Were we confident we were going to hold on?
I said earlier I didn't have any issues, because I mean Peterborough weren't very good, quite frankly, and we just sort of controlled it as best as we could. Really, I don't think there was anything particularly threatening from them. I think they had one or two crosses from what I remember, but nothing to, no work from Peacock Farrell certainly. So I was relatively comfortable.
Wasn't that one when he batted it away? Wasn't that an injury time? Do you remember
might
what I was
have
talking
been,
about?
might have been, yeah, possibly. I'm not sure now, but I was fairly relaxed, really, which is not something I've said a lot this season. That's for sure.
I wasn't.
Must be because I watched it sober for a change. I don't know.
Just so there's a bit in the comments, and I was going to mention it. He scored in the whatever it's called nowadays, trophy game, didn't he, Banks?
Yeah, but I think
league goals. Yeah,
it must be league goals that that was. I know the comments been made 40 months, but I think that's it must be league.
Just the overall match stats then. 9 shots to their 27, 2 on target, big chances 1, scored 1. But the only stat that matters is 2-1, and what an absolutely massive, massive result that was to get that win. It's got us out off the bottom. That's a good psychological boost, and we would have been cut adrift at the bottom with played a game more than everyone else. So a fantastic achievement for Ian Evatt on his first game, and hopefully there's a lot more to come. So let's move on to the player ratings section. Go through the team front to back. Start with you, Matt. Peacock Farrell.
Yeah, I mean, his distribution was okay. I thought he's got a good, he got a good punt on him. I don't remember many times that he hands rather than the fullbacks or whatever. Like you say earlier, he made that reflex save. Question marks over whether he was sort of stood still on the goal a little bit flat-footed, perhaps, but I think I'd just round that 6.8 up off FOTMob or whatever it is to a 7.
Nick, Andy Lyons, possibly his best game back since returning from that horrific injury. Goes from strength to strength.
Yeah. I thought he had a really decent game, and this is a guy who's not had a lot of football, has he? Under Bruce, he wasn't even making the subs bench for quite a while, and through circumstance, he finds himself starting, and he's acquitted himself really well. And long may it continue. We know what a decent player he can be. Did well for us when he was in the Championship. So it's good to see him getting his chance. I will go 7+.
Tim, over to you. Fraser Horsfall. What's it someone put in the comments? Fraser Horsfall. There we go, Tony. Horsfall showed why Bruce was sacked and why we have a great defender on our hands. Bit shaky first couple of minutes, but apart from that, a colossus at the back making numerous blocks.
Yeah, and you do wonder what the hell Bruce was thinking about not playing him, and putting aside the fact he's one of our highest earners, and we've blown other teams out the water with the wage packet to get it. You then think you're going to really give him a chance, and he never did he? I don't know whether they had crosswords or what. Something went on. He got hooked at half time, didn't he? A couple of games back. It suggests that something's been said at half time, and in some respects, I hope that is the reason, because that tells me you've got a character in the dressing room who's actually going to not be scared to open his mouth. He's my man of the match. I know there's arguments elsewhere, but he's my man of the match. I'm going to give him an 8+.
Defensive partner Ollie Casey, Matt, could form a good partnership, these two, and maybe bring Casey's game up playing with a player like Horsfall.
Yeah, took the words out of my mouth, really, John. I think it was evident that he was more comfortable with Horsfall, despite Horsfall's own admitted sort of shakier start, than he has been all season with the Heckway. And I think there's hopefully the forming of a good partnership now. Whether that changes with the addition of a Heckway or husband, as we mentioned earlier, I don't know. But hopefully it'll just bring the best out of Casey. So I'll go for an 8 because I thought it was pretty solid as well, really.
Zach Ashworth, Nick, another player ridiculously overlooked by Steve Bruce, fourth in line apparently as the left back slot, but another player that's gone from strength to strength at fullback.
Yeah. Similar with Andy with Andy Lyons, really, isn't it? He wasn't going to get his chance under Bruce. Wasn't even making the matchday squad again on quite a few occasions. Playing players ahead of him who weren't probably as naturally comfortable in that position. So it must have been really frustrating for him because he was probably thinking, when I'm going to get my chance, do I need to go elsewhere? So again, similarly with Lyons, it's good to see him getting his chance and doing well. And I thought he had a steady game overall. 7+.
Tim, you can have Lee Evans, 7.7 on the FOTMob scale. That's obviously to do with, some sort of metric they've got, some sort of algorithm.
Peterborough passing.
I think it's been
Call it as you saw it, Tim.
Yeah. He doesn't hide, I think it's been said before, doesn't he? And he doesn't, but 5.
Enough said.
Fair.
Okay, into the midfield. Brown, Matt, another good game. Another player that we can't do without in the team at the moment.
No, I think we're seeing it sounds obvious this when I say it, we're sort of seeing the player that we actually intended to buy now, aren't we? Over the last sort of few weeks, settled a bit more into the midfield role. Obviously got a decent engine on him. We all know that he's probably lacking a yard. He's probably lacking a little bit of composure. He's not a finished article. That's why he's at League One, for crying out loud. But for us, I think he'd always give us a 7 out of 10 as a minimum. I thought he was a bit better than that on Saturday. Not star man performance by any stretch, but I thought he worked his nuts off, and so I'd mark him up as an 8 on that one.
That's fair. Nick, Josh, the player formerly known as Josh Bowler, played in number 10 role. How do you think he did?
Whether it's still fitness or confidence or a combination of the two, he has moments, doesn't he? He still looks like he wants to try and, try and take players on, and he has the odd moment. We had the shot in the build up to the goal, so you've got to give him credit for that, and you just hope that, particularly now with Everett in, that he will start to blossom a bit, and we'll get to see more of the player who we had first time round. But I can't go any higher than a 6, I don't think, to be fair.
Tim, CJ on the FOTMob score, 6.5, the lowest score FOTMob have assigned. It's he's got to be fighting for that title with our player ratings, because the ball just did not stick to CJ, did it?
No, and I've got probably our two worst players of the day. I've got them both, haven't I? Was he worse than Evans? He didn't give the ball away as much as Evans, but he didn't do anything either. I think they're on par for me. I think it's another 5.
That's fair. Matt Ash Fletcher ploughed a lone furrow up there. The majority of the game didn't have a lot to go off, really.
No, he was. He was actually winning more headers than he probably has done on your average weekend since the start of the season. And to be fair, there was a couple of times when he did what he does in terms of once the ball's at his feet, he looks twice the player, doesn't he? But he worked hard, and that's all you can probably ask for him, really. He's still a bit of an enigma as well, isn't he? Let's be honest. But I don't know, 7 out of 10 for him.
To round this off, Nick, Tom Bloxham, I think the main positive, he looks like he's getting slightly fitter with each game.
Yeah, that was probably the main takeaway for me. He put a shift in, and again, it's going to be interesting to see how much he plays when people start, coming back from injuries. And up top is probably not his best position, is it? He's better out wide, but he's been asked to do a job, and I think it's another symptom of where we are at the moment, isn't it? It's not ideal, but he put a shift in. 7.
Okay,
I think
go on.
Sorry, mate. I'll just add about Bloxham. It was more evident that he was able to last almost 90 minutes, and he did put an effort in. And I thought, fair play to him for doing that, because I think ultimately he's one that has got a lot to prove to us fans, isn't he? And I hope that Everett gets the best out of him, and hopefully his attitude will get him to that position that he wants to play. Probably, who knows, replace Hamilton or Bowler or whatever. Because for me, if he gets fit in the next couple of weeks before the Cardiff game, then he's got a very good chance of starting ahead of them, assuming that there's more than 11 fit players on the actual squad.
He's off the ball, particularly when we were trying to close down. That there was a palpable difference in the level of effort that we saw, and that comes with that. You have to be fit enough to do that. He'd have been blown out of his backside a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
doing
he
some
wouldn't have done that under Bruce, would he, on Saturday?
No,
you wouldn't have got that long out of him.
And it maybe he's got something to, like he said, he's got something to prove, hasn't he? And maybe Everett will get the best out of him, because I think. You're looking at Everett at the moment, and I think there's a bit of joking about him being on the Monjaro, wasn't there? But the reality is, it appears it's his own personal discipline that's got him in the shape that he's in at the moment. And if he instills, 50% of the discipline that he's clearly got at the moment with his own fitness regime into the rest of them, that should pay dividends for us. And I'm all through the game, you could see he was coaching, and I don't think we've seen that for a while, probably since Critchley was there, to be fair.
Quite shocking, really. That. So, Tim, give us your man of the match, and also your manager rating for Ian Evatt.
Well, I'm going Horsfall man of the match. I think he just pipped Brown for me. I think maybe I'm being a bit generous to him, but it's because he's proven what I was thinking. Why the hell aren't we playing him? He should be playing. He is playing. I think he's going to take some moving out of the team. I think he's going to improve as the games move on. I think we might get a few goals out of him as well, hopefully. So he's my man of the match. And manager rating, I'm actually going to go 9 with Everett. I think, and mainly because of what I could see. Every time there was a break in play, he was straight in there. He was straight in there with instructions. And I've got to say, and this comes partially from being a Black fan, what he's saying off the pitch at the moment is everything that we as fans and probably the players need to hear as well. All this stuff about it being an absolute privilege to wear the shirt. That's what I want to hear from a manager. I want them to be bigging up the club. I want them to be bigging up the team. And he's clearly, it's not all for show. He's clearly enjoying himself. And what I would say is, and maybe I want us to really, as fan base, to get behind him and starting with this Saturday. When I know it's a bit difficult with it being a cup game. You're not going to get the same number of people there, but we really need to get behind him and give him the support that him and the team need, because I think we'll hopefully getting back to having a bit more of a connection between manager and fan base, and it's overdue, and it can only reap dividends for me.
Okay, Matt, over to you. Same questions, man of the match, and your rating for Ian Evatt. Barson's said Brown covered for Evans all game. It's not a bad shout, actually.
No, he did. He almost did two people's job in the middle there, didn't he? Really, let's be fair. And I think just because he's a bit unfashionable, isn't he? He's just a bit of a hard-working midfield type, isn't he? He's not going to be pinging balls left, right, and centre or anything like that. So a lot of the time his work probably gets unnoticed. But I'll be tempted to go for Brown. I mean, one of the contrarian sort of thing I was thinking of Ashworth actually at one point, because I think the way he's turned up and the
Great
crap that he's
shot.
had to put up with over the last sort of 6 months of his career is I think it's phenomenal, really. So I just for sentimental reasons I'll pick Ashworth actually. And manager, I can't disagree with anything that Tim said. Really, I'll equally go for a 9. I think you could argue that his substitutions might have happened a little bit early, but I think that's just testament of maybe not knowing, trusting, what was on the bench just at the present moment, really.
Okay, Nick, same questions, over to you.
Yeah, cigarette paper between Brown and Horsfall for me, with honourable mention to Ashworth. I'm going to go for Brown because I think he had a heck of a lot to do in that midfield, and he did it really, really well. And it was very interesting to hear in that interview that first time he was going out there, knowing what was expected of him, which is just crazy when you think about it. But anyway, I'll go for Brown, but Horsfall as well. Just showing what a great player he is, and he probably should have been in the team a lot sooner. It is going to be interesting to see what happens when Ihekwe comes back, because I think, to be fair, for all the criticism he has had, last 5 or 6 games, he's probably been one of our better players. So it will be interesting to see what we end up doing, whether the 3 of them will play or not. But it'll be nice.
100% certain that all 3 of them will play, Nick.
Yeah.
I
it's
think
going to be a
that's
nice
why Everett
decision
wants to
have,
play.
Yeah, and I'll go for a 9 as well for Ian Evatt. Great start. Great to see his enthusiasm. Like Tim said, getting the players together at every opportunity and looking like, early steps, but like we had a bit of a plan.
100% win rate for his time at Blackpool. Superb, Evo. Well done. Keep up the good work. Okay, just before we go, Scunthorpe coming up in the FA Cup on Saturday, as Tim's mentioned. Now, there is rumours that George Honeyman may be back for this one. I mean, what a difference that will make to Blackpool.
Well, we're going to need him, aren't we? I think. I mean, whether I don't.
Is Evans suspended for this? As well?
Evans is suspended. He got a yellow, yeah. And Hubby's due back as well. I don't think necessarily either of them are going to get chucked in for 90 minutes. And he's going to have to be careful with them. It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you want to, if you look at Scunthorpe's record, I know the National League, but they've only lost one all season. I think they've played 16, won 9, drawn 6, only lost 1, so point off top. So they'll be, it's got all the markings of a cup upset, hasn't it? So I don't necessarily think we can chuck loads of kids in there. We might maybe have 1 or 2, but we probably need enough experience as well to get us over the line, because it would be good to have a cup run, but we've got to be careful with these players coming back that they don't break down in the first game back. But we really are slim pickings for the centre of the park now, aren't we? So it's going to have to be Honeyman for I suppose as long as we can, alongside Brown, and then see how the game goes and whether we can take him off. But I don't think it'll be easy, because they're going to be up for it.
Yeah, they're on a bit of a roll, aren't they, really? Because they got promoted last year, didn't they? And if they've played how many games, did you say, Nick? 16 and 19?
16, won 9, drawn 6, lost 1.
Right, so they'll be fitter than us, that's for sure.
Is the whole panel going on Saturday for Everett? I am Big Dog, and I'm for Evo's homecoming, and I'm right behind him in the dugout.
I've joined you, John.
Have you?
Yes, I'm in M block as well.
What row?
7.
7. Okay.
I don't know whether 7's the front. It looked like when I booked the tickets, it looked like it was the front row, but I don't know. But anyway, near the front anyway.
Don't bring that tangerine coat, Tim. You'll be asked to wear a bib. Can you be that close to the dugout?
You might get on the bench, to be fair.
It
is a tough one, though, isn't it?
I'm in good company.
You're going to have to go. I think we're going to have to go reasonably strong, as much as we can do.
You just hope that we have a little bit.
A cup. Do you three all want a cup? I don't want us to go out the FA Cup.
Not in the first bloody hit. No. I want us to actually have a little bit of a success in it. I can't remember the last time we had a bit.
Or get to the third and get a decent home. Get a decent draw like Preston always seem to. That'd be nice.
I know. But yeah, I think hopefully, we'll have a little bit of better quality perhaps than they will, and that might make the difference. But I can see it being a bit. It's not going to be an easy afternoon, that's for sure.
But we need to build on the fitness, don't we? So actually, dropping a lot of the players when they actually need to get the fitness levels up isn't actually a great shout, is it? Because we're off the pace, and players like Bloxham and Bowler and even Lyons and Ashworth, they need game time.
Yeah.
Hansen as well. Give him a full game. See what he can do.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, I suppose as a yardstick, you can see how much of a step up we were from Barrow, and that was when obviously we had Bruce in charge and we were all over the place and all the rest of it. And I can't imagine Scunthorpe are a massive step up from Barrow, even if they are a league below them. And I just think we've probably got hopefully just a bit too much for them. It's just that obviously we're just a little bit nervous given our own position, aren't we, in the league?
North's open as well. That's good to see. So hopefully the club will promote the hell out of this and get as many down there as possible.
It also needs everybody, everybody's listening here just to make the effort. It's too easy just to say, I'll give it a miss because it's the first round of the cup. But I think we all need to, it goes back to comment made before, it's Everett's first home game. Let's try and give him and the players a bit of support and, make the effort. It's cheap, isn't it? Is it 10 quid in the north and a bit more expensive where you and I are going, John, but nevertheless still relatively good value, I think. So let's get there and give them a bit of backing. They need it.
Yeah. Right, I think we'll call it a day there. As ever, thanks in the comments, everybody. Please join our Patreon supporter program if you fancy it. Patreon.com/SeasidersPod. Like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And all I'm going to say is thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for downloading. And get yourselves to Bloomfield Road against Scunthorpe on Saturday. Let's welcome let's welcome one of our heroes from 2010 back to Bloomfield Road, and let's get this Everett train going and in the right direction. So up the pool, come on the pool.
Come on,
Centrino.
Been involved in 2. Can he make 3? Not on this occasion. Well taken by Walsh. Davis is on the far side. Ainscough coming square. That's the ball. That's a good try. What a goal! Oh!